How to stand out in a sea of birth and baby businesses. Hello, my name is Anna Lagrange and I'm one half of Baba Business, the Birth and Baby Business Academy.
And my name is Liz, and I'm the other half of Baba Business. And we help birth and baby business owners create the impact and the income that they want from their businesses.
So, today we're talking about standing out, and this can be so hard, can't it? I think last week in our episode we mentioned about competition and how that can give us those real feelings of scarcity. If you haven't listened to last week's
Yeah.
episode, go and have a listen. We kind of get into some very juicy topics about the stuff we've struggled with in business. So we thought this week would be a good idea to kind of extend that topic and think about, how on earth do you stand out when there's so many birth and baby businesses out there now? Because let's face it, the birth and baby business world is very different than when we first started out. I
Yeah.
started out in 2015. You started out before that. Remember that
2012,
one?
11, 12,
Sometime.
something like that. Yeah, so
um,
it is differently, definitely a different landscape. But I'm gonna challenge people as well to try to the reason why we feel like there's so many birth and baby businesses is because social media, our feeds
mm,
are cultivated by ourselves, and naturally we're interested and drawn to the things that we know and we love and we teach. And so that happens to be a lot of other birth and baby business owners. So if you look at your Instagram follow, like who you're following on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, it's probably lots of other business owners, and so you're seeing all their stuff showing up, and this can make you feel like really contracted, like, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. And they're you can create some comparisonitis and some imposter syndrome and all of those things. But I just wanted to reality check you for a minute that not all those birth and baby business owners are your direct competition. So even if you feel like the world is saturated with all these different options, often it's not the actual reality. Having said that, you will know what's going on in your local area, or you should. So you should know, who is offering birth and who's offering services to parents and families and babies, because they could be your collaborators as well as potentially being your competition. So try to reframe that as
mm.
collaborators rather than competition, and try to not get stuck in that kind of belief that the world is too small for all these birth and baby business owners. Like, it's not.
It's not. Look at like your local area and just look at how many supermarkets there are. Look at how many hairdressers there are. Look at how many nail salons there are. Do you know what I mean? There's, there's on it. Like if I think about Faversham, where I'm from, in the UK, like we have so many hairdressers, and I know a lot of people have their hair cut. Most people, not
Yeah.
everyone. But they were busy. They always had plenty of bookings, and it's there's space for everybody. There really is, and we're so lucky to work in the industry that we work in, because people are always going to have babies, no matter what is going on. People are always going to be having babies. So we know that in the pandemic, a lot of industries ground to a halt because people stopped doing certain things, didn't
Yeah.
stop having babies. So, we are extremely lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
So it's the reframing of this is so important. And when you were speaking in the first bit, sorry, when you were speaking the first part, it really made me think of the misconception that we get around from social media. It's like the stuff like we all believe that the world has become a more dangerous place and there's more crime, but actually crime has reduced
Yeah.
over the decades. It's just that we
We
didn't
hear about
have this way of
it.
hearing about it. We didn't have, we basically had the hand phone and the newspapers and the radio. And okay, we had the TV as well. The news was only on a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
Now you can have a news channel on 24 hours a day,
So
and
true.
it's just like crime upon crime upon crime upon crime. So I think it's just again, it's like a complete misinterpretation of what's going on in the real world. So I do think that is the mindset thing is so important. But let's talk about, let's say you have got, competition, for want of a better word, collaborating. It's people in your world who are local to you. And look, maybe there's small businesses who you can collaborate and network with, but what if they're like a really big juggernaut, feels like a big juggernaut of a business that's really growing fast in your area, and it's the go-to place? Like, how on earth do you compete with that? And I think the question is, should you compete with that?
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. It's hard, isn't it? Because you feel like, I can just imagine lots of birth and baby business owners like, how am I supposed to compete with X, Y, and Z? And really, the best way to compete with them is to be you, like uniquely. You are what will sell your business. These other kind of bigger brands that we're talking about, they're normally, the person who teaches the classes doesn't necessarily front the business. It's a bigger brand. Not everybody wants that. Sometimes people want to know, who is it that's going to be teaching me? What do they, what do they do? What do they think about things? Like, do they have a dog? Do they I know that's random, but like, what do they have for breakfast? Sometimes people really want to know who the person is that's going to be guiding them through, one of the most important periods of their lives, whether that's pregnancy or the postnatal period, or becoming a parent. There is this desire for connection within our industry. So don't underestimate the trendy new thing. You don't underestimate yourself and pitch it against the trendy new thing. Definitely be you, but you can also create a unique selling point. So look at what are they, which could be these bigger brands, or it could be other smaller local businesses. What are they not offering that you could, and sometimes that can be a whole service, and sometimes it can be adding something in to what you're already offering, or it can be like they get something for free if they sign up with you. So really start to think outside the box with that. And one example I can give is when I was teaching hypnobirthing in my local area, when people signed up to my hypnobirthing group, in order for me to stand out and have a unique selling point, they also got a free voucher to a pregnancy massage. So who doesn't want a pregnancy? Well, maybe some people don't want a pregnancy massage,
Maybe.
but the people that were signing up for my course, I know it was a big selling point for them. It was like, oh, I get a free pregnancy massage. And I built the cost of the massage into my course. I had a deal with the pregnancy masseuse so that I was paying like a reduced cost. She was getting free marketing from me essentially, and I was paying her, and she was, had the potential for returning clients. So it was a real win-win situation, and that helped me stand out from other people in the local area, even a big brand.
Yeah, I really, really love that you did that. I think it's great. And I think it does, like, it feels really special. And I think that's, that is what's nice about, offering something like that. Like, for the ideal person, it's a great freebie example of an in real life freebie. Yeah, I definitely think this is also about, we're always banging on about it, really knowing who your clients are.
Yeah.
And who you want to work with and what it is that they need. So it could be about getting out there and really speaking to your ideal clients, going back to your most recent customers, the ones that you've loved working with. What did they get? What did they get the most out of from working with you? Sharing testimonials, and really getting to know your local, your other local businesses around you. One of the things I did to stand out was I made sure that I had, I tried to build up a relationship with every single person who offered antenatal services around me. So I went and I did a talk for the baby yoga class every term, every cohort. I went and did a talk for them, or a Q&A. Very easy to do. Didn't have to prepare anything. I just went and they asked questions. And then I did the same for aquanatal class. I just really kind of offered my services out everywhere I could, because I knew that what I wanted was to become the go-to person for what it is that
Yeah.
I offered in my area. And I really, really pushed myself in the early
Mm.
first 2 years, really, to be that person. I would say yes. I mean, we were talking about this in the last episode, like when an opportunity came my way, even if it felt a bit like, like outside of my comfort zone, I would just force
Yeah.
myself to say yes. And it always paid off. I always made connections. I made sales. We had this, there was a pregnant mum who wanted to set up like a group of other pregnant mums and local service users and bring us all
Mm-hmm.
together for a weekly get together. And it was a lot. It was like a weekly commitment, but I committed. I went every single week. That group of women became such a personal a personal network for me, as well as professional. It was really, really great. That was something that, some weeks I was a bit like, oh, do I really feel like going, because it was like late at night, it was out in the countryside. But it really, really paid off,
Mm.
and also brought me personally something quite special into my life as well. So that's one of the things. I think the other thing is to get really clear on your messaging. So
Mm.
like you said, you can create a new service, or you can, but you don't have to. Like, it can just be thinking about, how is my service different? Like, what do people get from my service that they might not get from somewhere else? So I'm probably a bit of a rare example, but when I was pregnant with my first, I had no interest in NCT whatsoever.
Me
I just
neither.
didn't want to go. I didn't get why everyone loved it so much. Everyone always moaned about it, and said, oh, they did. And and I don't mean any shade on anyone who teaches NCT here. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about my local area. Everyone who did NCT used to be like, oh, it's great for meeting friends, but I didn't learn much. And I was just like, I'm not going to pay for that. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make friends my own way.
Yeah.
I went to the NHS classes. Wish there'd been hypnobirthing where I lived at the time. We're talking 18 years ago, so there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of, I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me. So if I had had somebody locally, and what I did do is I went to the Aquanator, because it was quite personable. The woman who ran it, she was absolutely bonkers. She was completely bonkers, retired midwife. She was absolutely off her trolley.
You
She
loved
used to
her.
have us every lesson, like with pretend that we had a Sharpie sitting in our vagina and we were writing letters. But I'm not kidding you. This was like, the whole lesson was about this. She was like, just like a brilliant, brilliant midwife. I was just like, oh, I wish you were still doing births, because you could be my midwife, because we would have so much fun, So I was just like, for me as a new mum, I was like, this is great. I know her. I feel like I can ask her anything. I
Yeah. Yeah.
feel like she's going to be really honest with me. She knows her stuff. She's fun. Like, I enjoy being. Do you know what I mean? That personal touch,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like that as a mum, that really mattered to me. That's what I was
Mm-hmm.
interested in. Not going to a class because everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those people. So if you're not sure what those unique things are about your service, go back to your past customers, look at your testimonials, go and
Mm-hmm.
even just send one a text and just say, hey, look, I know it's been a while since I've been in touch, just wondering how you're getting on. I'm just going back to all my old customers and I'm asking them, what was the number one thing you got from working with me? It will really help me to communicate that to my customers.
Yeah.
So for my clinic, I did that. I started my clinic here in Cape Town back in August. And on the 1st of January, or whenever we went back, I sent a text message to every single person I supported those
Yeah.
first 4 months. And I said exactly that. Just getting in touch. I'm just asking everybody what's the number one thing you got for me. And I also gave them a link for my Google reviews as well. I think I messaged 30 people and I think I got about 10 replies, maybe 8. It wasn't like everybody, but it was
Yeah.
enough for me to get some really good traction on Google Business, and also get some language from
Yeah.
them about
Mm-hmm.
what it is they loved most about my services. And that's gold dust, because then I use that language and I can use the
Mm.
things that people said, not in necessarily just their exact words, but I can weave it into my business marketing and my messaging, because I know that that's what made me stand out to them. And yeah, just instead of trying to compete, like, just do things your way, your own way, for your clients, and know that your people are out there.
Yeah, there's some really good ideas there. I love that you did that with your clients in January. So I was just thinking, if you're standing out in a sea of hypnobirthing, sorry, standing out in a sea of birth and baby business owners is really, um, a lot of it is down to your marketing approach as well. So try something different, you know? So I
Yes.
drove around in a car that was wrapped in the word hypnobirthing, that had my contact details on the back. And I'll tell you what, it got me noticed. You know, I mean, I wish I had been better at monitoring things back then, because I'd like to see, you know, how many
Mm.
people directly came from it, but maybe nobody did. But it was part of my whole marketing piece, you know. So it was essentially a touch point. So if somebody saw me there, and they might speak to me at school about my car, or, you know, at a children's party, like, oh, what's this then? It's definitely a conversation starter. But people stopped in a traffic jam, would look at my car and, you know, take notice of it, and it might start conversations. It might make people Google, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. You know, thinking outside the box. There wasn't anybody else at that point driving around my area in a car wrapped with the word hypnobirthing. It was just me.
I'm sure there wasn't, Liz.
So
I
it
love it
made me
though.
no, it made me stand out. So try to think, and that's not the only thing. I'm not saying everybody should get their cars wrapped, but that's not the only thing. There's lots of different things that you can do. You know, you can even look at other sectors, other industries, and look at how they promote their services and their offerings, and see, you know, well, how could I do that but for hypnobirthing? Is there any way that that would, you know, translate into our sector? And really, like, get experimental about it, because it will make you stand out, and it will make people notice you, and it will make people think, you know, this wacky person driving around with their car wrapped in hypnobirthing, maybe she's the one for me. Who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Or they see something and are like, oh, I must tell my pregnant daughter about that, or my friend,
Yeah.
or whatever. And you know, when we first started Baba, one of the places we got some inspiration from was actually a dog training Instagram account. Maybe that was
So
just
right.
me. But anyway, like, I think in the, you know, things are done a certain way, and
Yeah.
you often sort of copy, and not copy literally, but you emulate
Yeah.
what you've seen and what you
Mm.
know. Like, I think getting out into other industries is so
Mm.
helpful, and that's sort of all what we did with the dog thing. We didn't copy their stuff by any means, but we were like, oh, look what you can do to build an Instagram account. You can do this, and it was things like a lot of repeat posting. You know, they posted a lot, but they posted stuff that was quite similar. Like, there was a lot of things that we had never used in our other Instagram
Yeah.
accounts that
Yeah.
really got us thinking, okay, we've got this. This is our first, you know, it's not our first online business, because our other businesses have become online, but it's our first only online business.
Yeah.
It's not even an online only business anymore, but you know what I'm trying to say. It was a very different business
Yeah.
model. It was a very different business model to what we'd done before,
It was.
and it
Yeah.
needed a different approach. So if you feel like your marketing is tired, if you feel like others are doing similar to what you're doing, like,
Yeah.
come up with a different approach, look for a different approach, do things differently, because that's what, you know, if we want something to change, we have to be willing to change
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. We
And
do.
so that is part of being a business owner, is shifting things up, changing things, trying to see things from a different perspective. And yeah, just look at other industries. It's such a great piece of advice,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just don't be afraid. If something makes you feel like icky, just do it anyway. Give it a go, you know? And when I
Give
say
it a
icky,
go.
yeah, I don't mean like it goes against your ethical and moral values. I don't want anyone to do that. I was talking to one of my instructors last night, and we were talking about like leafleting, and
Mm.
she like, oh, it makes me so uncomfortable to like go into cafes and like, hi, can you put my leaflet up, please? You know, for some people that would be nothing, but for her, she's got to really dig deep and she's got to do it. And you know, she spent a whole day this week going around all these different like cafes and like, you know, like yoga studios and kind of
Yeah,
therapy centers, putting up her leaflet. Again, that's not, that in itself is not going to bring you loads of clients, but it's just one part of the bigger picture in the process. But anyway, she went into a very popular chain of like cafe, not really expecting them to say that she could put up her poster, and she
yeah.
asked like, oh, we don't have a notice board, just put it up on the window. And she was like, what? So she went over to the window and found a really prominent place and was like, is here okay? And they were like, yeah. And she said it was there. I mean, that what she actually did was a few months ago, but she was leafleting again this week. So she said that she drove past this cafe, which is on the corner. It's very prominent, and her poster was there for ages, you know, for people
Love
to
it.
know. So it takes a little bit of courage. It takes a little bit of getting out your comfort zone. But these things can really make a difference. They can really make you stand out, and they can get people talking about you.
Yeah, that's just reminding me of something like you can't really do this now in the same way because it's not as relevant. But when I started the mindful breastfeeding school, the thing I did and where I pushed myself outside my comfort zone was Facebook Lives. Like I
Oh, me too.
knew that in 2017, 2016, 2017, like video was becoming king and long form video as well. It's not like
Mm,
now where it's all, you know, shorts
clips, yeah.
and reels and stuff. Like it was like people wanted, it feels funny to think that, isn't it? But up until the pandemic, people wanted juicy things they could get into. An hour of watching something was, you know, was like the norm. And boy, did I find that uncomfortable. And I started off and I just started recording videos myself talking about stuff to no one. No one was there. I was on my public business page on Facebook. Again, this is a little bit dated because not stopping you from doing that, but it's not going to potentially get you the traction that it did back
Yeah.
then. Is what I'm trying to say. And I just got so used to it. I got so used to just waffling on. It wasn't waffle, it was important stuff, but talking to a screen with no one watching, just talking and talking, and then I started getting viewers, and then I was like, oh, okay, and then but I was already. It's almost like I'd got the confidence was there by then. I was a bit like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to speak in front of people, but I'd practiced it so much. It's become such second nature to me already. And then the viewers went up, you know, and I remember like having 100+ people then in the end on some of those videos back then. And it was that putting myself out there and doing it again and again, not just doing it once and being like, well, no one watched, I'm not going to bother with that again. I just did it again and again and again because I knew it was what was going to bring people in.
Yeah.
And it really did work. And now video is my absolute favorite form of content. I love being on video. I feel very comfortable on it. I've done, you know, online conferences to thousands.
Yeah.
And it's just been like, it's like chatting to you on here. And it's from, I know it's from those early days of putting myself out there and just doing it. So the more you do something that feels uncomfortable, the easier it gets. And that's still very true, by the way, on Instagram. I know my colleagues who have built their Instagram accounts really quickly are the ones who are getting out there and they're sharing value every single day and sharing videos, and they're really committing to it. And, you know, doing that stuff for parents, and they, you know, their kind of commitment to that really has grown their accounts really nicely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, please, guys, don't be afraid. Give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? You know, we've been there, done that, and we are still here to tell the tale. So we really hope that you take some inspiration from this podcast and more importantly, put some of the things into action, like have a
Yeah.
go or your own version of having a go.
Yeah, come and let us know how you get on. We always love to hear your feedback. And we will be back next week with a whole new episode.
We will. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.